Thank you, Maggie, and thank you, Pastor Clements, for the kind introduction. A fun fact, I've had one wife, one job, and lived in one community for 76 years. The slide that you're looking at is where it all started in 1946. My father, with $500 of borrowed cash, bought that store with a house connected and an apartment above. I believe the price was rumored to be $25,000. We had jobs back then that we don't have today. I mean, Dad would bust it open 100-pound sacks of potatoes and we'd scoop them up, put them in 10-pound bags. Eggs came in 30 dozen containers, and you could put them as a 5, 10-year-old kid in dozen containers. And of course, there were other things. Soda was all glass. People returned the bottles. We had to sort them by vendor in the back of the house. It was wonderful growing up. When people ask me how long I've been in the business, I tell them 71 years, because I was 5 years old when we could walk from the kitchen of that store into the first aisle of the 2-aisle supermarket. A lot of things have changed since then, obviously, but one that hasn't changed, and that is the guest still wants us to serve as their agent for quality, price, and service. So, my faith journey. I want to tell you, I'm nervous. This is not going to be easy for me. I've never been asked to do this. I've never been asked to present to a group this large. But hang in there with me. We'll have you out of here at 9 o'clock. So I learned to pray by folks that were, brought to me by God in my life. Number one would be Jim Hunter. Jim Hunter wrote the book, The Servant. You may have heard him at Viterbo. I think he's been there half a dozen times. When I would call Jim about a personal issue or a business issue, I could always rely on him for an honest answer. And he would always tell me, Dave, get in your prayer closet. That would be his closing statement. Get in your prayer closet. And I always wondered what that was. I didn't want to sound stupid, but I now know what my prayer closet is. It's my car, my office, my bed, and I do it often, as Maggie said. Jim Hunter was a piece of that gift to me that grew my faith. And then there was Bernard Prolly, late dairy farmer out here by the mall, passed away a couple months ago at 95. And I go visit Bernard, and he always wanted to pray. He had memory loss, and he couldn't say my name, but he knew who I was when I would talk to him. And he would grab my hand, and I knew what that meant. We're going to say the Lord's Prayer together. And he would always tell me, I feel so sorry for people without faith. And then he would ask me to pray again with him. He was just such a strong person. He said farmers had to pray. So we plant these crops, and they had to take. We all pray. Farmers pray. And I learned about prayer with farmers. Jean Brewster, a widowed friend of mine who was battling cancer, I would go and see her. I just stumbled across her in the store one day, and she handed me a God calling book one day and says, this is your Christmas present, a daily devotional. And I read it daily for now 3-4 years, and I really love it. It's helped me grow my faith. And of course, Maggie, on a daily basis. Strong Christian lady. So in that journey, I had to dust off the Bible after learning from these people. Tried to read it. It's difficult, as most of you know. Hard to pronounce those names. Hard to get into that, really strong. But I tell you what, I'm green and growing, like Maggie said. I'm learning, constantly learning. But I've been helped with the value of some books. Jesus CEO by Mary Beth Jones. Kind of a daily devotional, putting business and religion together. Very helpful. Wisdom from Above from Charles Stanley, daily devotional that I just thoroughly enjoy. And you have many of those same kind of books. Part of my faith journey has been servant leadership, Christian-based servant leadership. Taught to us by Jim Hunter, who wrote the book, The Servant. Quite a gentleman. I've learned that we're all in the same profession. We were created by God to serve and enrich the lives of others. And when you have that belief, you understand the doctor and the mechanic are in the same profession. The educator and the grocer are in the same profession. The politician and the attorney are in the same profession, serving and enriching lives of others. Put other people's needs before your own. And when we serve, we got to sacrifice, don't we? Before I get into that sacrifice, let's talk about Martin Luther King Jr., who said, everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You don't need a college degree to serve. You need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. I just love that. Heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. So when we serve, we have to sacrifice our ego, our pride, our need to be liked by everybody, our need to have all the answers. There's sacrifices we have to make to be a servant leader. We have to forgive, apologize, and give credit to others even when we don't feel like it. Part of servant leadership. Servant leadership defined: a servant is one who identifies and meets legitimate needs of others, puts their needs before our own. Leadership is a skill of influencing people to action. Keyword skill, keyword influence. This stuff is old, by the way. It's in the Bible, Matthew 20, verse 26. Jesus said, those wanting to lead must first serve. So what does that look like? Here's what a servant leader looks like. Humble. They tell the truth of their strengths as well as their weaknesses. We tell our people, if you want to become really, really great, become really, really humble. Close to the ground. Being aware there's a lot you don't know, because that's a fact. Servant leaders take blame and they don't care who gets credit for things. They understand there's no nobility in being better than somebody else. That was Mother Teresa's favorite quote. It's not our job to undo the competition. It's about each of us continuously improving. We have not arrived. Folks flirt with servant leadership. They read books, they watch videos, they listen to Jim Hunter and Jim Collins and you name it, but they don't get it into their game. Not all of them get it into their game. That's work. So we learn about leadership, but we're not necessarily servant leaders until we get it into our game. Hard work. Leadership test is, do people leave you better than when they came? That's our job. So how do we find and develop great leaders? How do we get them from good to great? The old Jim Collins theory. We got to hire people of character. That's our moral maturity. Our willingness to do the right thing even when we don't feel like it. Moral maturity. Willingness to do the right thing. It's a set of human virtues. Humbleness, kindness, selflessness, courageousness. More of a plow horse than a show horse. It's easy to hire people we like and people that have experience. Oftentimes I will tell some of our people, we hired so-and-so from store X and he's got 20 years experience and we're excited. And I said, be careful. I hope it isn't 1 year's experience 20 times. We need to hire people of character. Dig deep till you get those character traits. If you want me to follow, you want people to follow you, they got to trust your competence, but more so they got to trust your character. We got to keep working on our character. Be picky about who you put on your team. Number 2, we got to hold people accountable. Mr. Hunter teaches us every year when we don't hold people accountable, we're not being honest. And by the way, we signed up as leaders to hold people accountable. We hold our children accountable. We hold our spouse accountable. We were held accountable as children. We had friction thrown at us because we needed that to grow. But there's something about this leadership stuff that we get to a certain point, and we've got these good people with great moral values, but we just don't hold them accountable. People need friction to grow. It's not necessarily what they want, but it's absolutely what they need. And that's what we need to do. If I work for you and you don't identify my stuff and make me better than when I came, I will leave you worse than when I came. That's your responsibility. as my leader. I'm entrusted to your care. I want you to push me to excellence. We do it in sport all the time, don't we? Coaches push people to excellence. They tell them what their stuff is. But at work, we just kind of get into this little cocoon and we just say, oh, we're all in this together. Let's all be happy. Let's all have each other's back. We're good enough. You might have people getting mad at you for a while, but I don't need another buddy. We got buddies. We got enough. Maggie allowed me to bring this up with her stuff. Boy, it's hard to find stuff that she's got to change, as you can probably tell. But she would come in 5-10 minutes late often. And I wanted to give her constant feedback. I didn't wait till performance review and say, hey, Maggie, you know, back in February and I think in March and in May, you were coming in 5 and 10 minutes late. So I confronted Maggie and she said, Dave, this has been a problem my whole life. I mean, the gal's in her late 20s. But she says, I absolutely have this problem. I know what it is. Thank you for calling me out on it. I'm going to fix it. If she got it figured out, she's better than she used to be, but she's not as good as she wants to be. Trust me. She has got it figured out. Made me feel so good. So let's talk about legitimate needs. Appreciate me and make me feel important. We visualize every teammate with this billboard on their body. There's nobody in this room that doesn't want to be appreciated and be able to feel important. Common need. Constant feedback. I gave it to Maggie. You don't wait till the end of the year, performance review, and say, folks, remember in July, that little deal with a guest, we lost a client. Constant feedback we need. Positive and negative stuff. Hunter calls it the hugging and the spanking. We got the hugging down. You know, we love to praise people, catch them doing stuff good. But again, that accountability, that spanking stuff is hard for us. We got to do it. You see, money doesn't motivate us. It's a legitimate need, but it doesn't motivate us. What motivates us is seeing opportunities. When I listened to Pastor Clements talking about John Menninger and this group of 5 people, they saw an opportunity. We're seeing the results again today. We know we made a difference. I'm going to throw this little plug in here for another opportunity perhaps. I can see this venue moving to the Lacrosse Center or to the Weber Center with 1,000 people instead of 200, maybe even more. It's going to take some resources and some planning and thinking, but I see an opportunity. If we grab that opportunity, we will see the results, and hopefully we've made a difference. Ecclesiastes. Maggie, did I do it right? 5:10. Those who love money will never have enough. How absurd to think that wealth brings true happiness. You want to make more money? Get out there and serve more people. Become harder to replace. Keep serving and serving. Be the boss/leader that you wish your boss would be. Number 4 is change. Ponder this question for 5 seconds. Can you improve as a parent, a friend, a boss, a co-worker if you don't change something you're presently doing? Or have you arrived? Are you as good as you can possibly get? If you want to improve as a person, continuous improvement we talked about, the old paradigm, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, doesn't work anymore. If you want to improve as a parent and as an employer, a boss, you better get ready to change something. And we all got stuff that we need to change, and everybody knows what our stuff is. Let me tell you my story. We did a leadership skills inventory. You'll see it on the slide here. And this was passed out, every one of our 300, this was 20 years ago. I'm 52 years old, approximately, and I'm the CEO of this company. CEO that never was good at math. CEO of this company, and I was a poor listener. So we had to fill this out on ourselves, and we HR gave it to 8 other people that reported to me or was close working with me, my assistant, who wasn't Maggie at the time, my son. I don't know who the other 6 people were. So I fill out this form. When it comes to number 6, is a good listener, I put agree. I could have put strongly agree, I put agree. I gave myself 3 points. All 8 of those people, including my son and my assistant, disagreed or strongly disagreed. Dave gets together at a banquet somewhere like this gathering. Somebody comes up and talks to him, and he's looking over my shoulder when he talks. And he often interrupts my sentences. They could write that stuff in. That's how I knew Mark and my assistant were part of that exercise. And you talk about humbling. Now we had to go before the panel. Mr. Hunter, my son, myself, and Marlon Greenfield, that some of you would know. All 300 of us had to go spend 20 minutes with the panel talking about our stuff. The stuff that blindsided us and the stuff that we just simply have to. I had more stuff than that, but that blindsided me. So I was prepared for this 20-minute session, and then I'm going to sit on the other side of the panel. And I had my shirts embroidered. Everyone wore white shirts in those days with "Listen First" on them, as a reminder that I'm a poor listener. If I conquered that, I'm better than I used to be, but not as good as I want to be. I'm looking at people in the eye when they talk to me today. I'm cognizant of it. I'm respectful of people that want to talk to me, and I'm not looking over their shoulders. I don't care who's signaling me, saying hi, I'm looking in their eyes. If you don't think you have stuff to change, I'm going to challenge you with something that works. Take this sheet of paper and give it to your spouse or your children, your best friend, your coworker, your boss, and write on the top, what is it about me you would change if you could? Now you got to ask this with compassion, sincerity, humbleness, or you're going to get, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, Betty. You know, I really don't know if I should do this. You got to sell them on the fact that you got something you need to change, and you'll be surprised how consistent this might be. Well, I don't like to tell stories, and I'm not going to mention names, but I will tell you that one gentleman came up to me in the store one day and said, Dave, I got to thank you for that little exercise. I did it with my children. And you talk about courageousness. This guy is telling me that his son said, I wish you would not swear at Mom. Wow, I didn't know the guy that well, but he's telling me he swears at his wife. The other guy said, my son told me, I wish you'd spend a little more time with my sister. Seems like you just spend a lot of time with me. That's big stuff. It works. Try it. So how can we get people to change? We have open and honest discussions with them. People getting mad at us for a couple days perhaps, but candor works. Jack Welch said that one greatest thing that led to his success with GE, I practice candor. It unclutters. Associates need to hear the truth. They can deal with the truth, but it's frightening when they don't hear the truth. They have to guess. How do you feel about it? How am I in your picture? Few things more difficult than breaking deep-seated habits. So in summary, we can't do what God does, and God won't do what we can do. He can save us. God does that. We can't do it. But God won't give us good habits. God won't give us character traits. We have to do that ourselves. 52 years old before I figured, I got other stuff, don't get me wrong, but 52 years old, running a company that was pretty good size at that time, and I was a poor listener. Servant leadership is an awesome responsibility. Be the leader your Creator called you to be. He gave us these gifts. Some of them are still bundled up in us, and maybe we haven't used them. Our gift back to our Creator is how we use these gifts. To our full potential, or are we going to fall in that mediocrity mode? Be the leader your Creator called you to be. Life without God is like an unsharpened pencil. There is no point. So my prayer for you is this. If you feel that stirring within you today, get it up here today. It's in the head. We got to get it into the heart, and then out as a habit. Life's a gift. It's not an obligation. I want to read you in closing the poem, The Dash. And I will tell you that we have a laminated card for your purse or pocketbook. Linda Ellis, you probably heard about the story about Linda Ellis and the poem, The Dash. You probably heard it at a funeral. I personally have read it at a couple of funerals. I read this after every presentation because it moves me. It kind of summarizes our life. It's 250 words. We've named our park in Onalaska Dash Park. And Linda Ellis is scheduled to be here for our ribbon cutting in June. I want to read you this poem. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was that dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved her really know what that line was worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left. It still can be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough and consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might last just a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I have a little illustration in closing. You may have seen Pastor Chan do this. I learned about it, and he had a little different purpose with it, but he talks about this being eternity, this rope, and it wraps around the universe millions of times. It's never ending. Webster says eternity is never-ending life after death, and it just never ends. So then we take our hand off the end, and this is our life here on earth. This is 80 years today, which is life expectancy. Actually, I think it's 82. I'm way over here. And I am pulling for some overtime, trust me. Most of you, as I look in the crowd, are maybe about right here. But just think how short this is, and how we fret and fear and plan and worry. We do little about this, eternity, planning. So I'm asking you, wherever you are on this dash, that you make some changes, you consider some changes. I'm so thankful that I changed, and I know a lot of you would say, there's some other stuff, Dave, you need to change. And I'm okay with that. My wife will tell me that. So this is your dash. Spend it wisely. Make some changes. God bless all of you, and thank you for your kind attention.